Hi, Kendall.
Good morning or afternoon.
Like, don't tell me it's morning. It's been a long day.
Area. But it's nice to get back together and say hello, kind of a deal.
Yep, that is true.
It is good.
We have some fun updates. How have you been?
Life is good. We got a big rainstorm out here in Tooele County here a couple of weeks ago, and water was running down the streets, and we had a big burn on the mountain 2 years ago, and all that mud and trees, everything washed down. It was just a big mess. But it's good.
I think I saw a video of a truck basically almost like covered with water by the high school, the new high school that you have in Tooele. And I wasn't sure if that was a deep fake or if that really was true.
Well, it's a brand new high school on the north end of Tooele.
Yeah.
And the drainage, there's only two outlets, and it's down at the bottom of a hill kind of, so this whole hillside collects water.
Oh.
And by design, it's supposed to go down to that. No water got into the high school, thank heavens.
Oh, good.
You could launch the boat in that parking lot. It was true, it happened, but it got way over dramatized because engineering design said that's the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah. That was so interesting. I was like, I think that truck's about to get like just buried underwater. Like that's
Well, the school district only spent $150 million on that school.
Well, I'm glad it seems like it's all okay now.
Yeah. So how about everybody else? It's good. You're doing good. You and the family doing good?
Everyone's good here in my family, but we've got some other people joining us too. So
okay, then we'll let them join in. So
yeah.
Thanks for visiting.
No, I always enjoy hearing from you.
Hey, good afternoon, all.
Hello.
Morning, John. Afternoon, John.
Oh, I was like, please don't pull me back to the morning, please. I think I've earned these hours today. So, good afternoon. Hey, you know what? If everyone's all right with it, I know we have there are a number of commissioners still joining. We'll probably get a few more. We're going to go ahead and get started, but we're also, and I'm not going to skip anything. I know we do welcomes and our introductions and approval of minutes, but we're going to jump right to number 3. I think Katrina, if you've seen the agenda, Katrina will be presented on the new IDC website, but she also has a time constraint. So if we don't mind, let's please allow her to go first. Katrina, we'll turn the time over to you.
Oh, okay. Well,
sorry, is that too soon? Forgive me.
Okay.
I can go ahead and start with introductions if you need a moment.
Yes, please.
Okay. Forget my sorry. I wanted to make sure to respect your time. I know you need to get it going. So I recognize I think I recognize everyone, which is good for me, which means you guys recognize each other for sure. But if you don't mind, we'll just do quick introductions. My name is John Quorum. I'm the current commission chair, and I know the order is different for everyone, so please, anyone else hop in and introduce yourself.
Michael Zimmerman. I've been a member for a long time.
Margaret Lindsay. I represent the child welfare area and work with the Utah County Public Defender Association.
I'm Kendall Thomas, and I'm a Tooele County councilman, and I just like to hang out with attorneys. They're so exciting. So that's why I got asked to be on this committee.
Okay. So Kendall, you are new to the committee then.
That's true.
Wonderful. Welcome.
This is like my second or maybe my third, maybe. I'm a veteran now. Maybe I've been to 3. This is my 3rd meeting. So
you are. And you're a veteran. So
and I'm a vet now.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Welcome.
Wally Bugden. I'm a defense attorney. I've been on the commission a long time too.
Paul Dodd. I'm a commissioner I'm with West Jordan City. I kind of came through the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns. I've been on the for about a little bit less than a year. So I'm fairly new.
I'm Aaron McKnight. I work for Orem City. I'm also here through the Utah League of Cities and Towns. I've been on the commission for a little over a year.
Stephanie
Richard-
Gracious. I'm with the Utah Legislature. This is only my second meeting, so hello, everybody.
Hello.
Rich Morrow, Salt Lake Legal Defender Association.
Are you ready for me, John?
I think that was that all of us.
This is Laureen
All-
Kamalu. And yeah, sorry, I'll get my video going when I can in just a bit. I'm still out, not back in the office, but Laureen Kamalu and I am a Davis County Commissioner, but like Kendall, we are appointed by the Utah Association of Counties. And I've been in since the big kind of first quarter 2020. That's one of those memories of the pandemic. So love this group.
I think that does it for
Is that-
commissioners, and we have a quorum, so that's fantastic. I don't think we've ever had a quorum
Perfect.
this quick before, but we
Yes.
go through staff introductions really quick, if that's all right, Chair Quorum.
Yes.
I'm
Certainly.
Matt Barraza. I'm the Executive Director of the IDC.
I'm Adam Troop. I'm the Assistant Director for the IDC.
Rena Adair, the Grant Program Manager.
Leslie Howitt, Data Analyst.
Right, Gatmeyer, the Managing and Training Attorney.
Deborah Nelson with IAC.
Daniel Lancaster with a Program Coordinator for Forensic Social Work and Capital Mitigation.
Wonderful. I think that's all of us. And then warm welcome to you, Paul, and Stephanie, too. Welcome to the commission. All right. Katrina, we are ready.
All right. So we're pleased to let you know that our new website is live. And we wanted to create a website that would be user-friendly and would have information for our clients, IAD clients, other people involved in the justice system, the general public, and then, of course, managing defenders and defense attorneys throughout the state. And I don't know if you want to take the time to look at the website, or if you just want to go on your own and take a look at it and see what we have there. But we have tried to include information about the IAD, what we do, our mission and purpose, about the commission itself, commissioners, and what positions you hold on the commission, and when the meetings are held, and how public can attend the meetings. We have information on our staff directory, so people can get hold of us with questions or anything that they may need. IAD attorneys have been protected by just using their IAD generic email address, so that they are not harassed by
Client.
by clients or others. And then we have a secure section page for managing defenders that has toolkits that are available for defenders throughout the state. And we wanted to keep those secure so that they would not fall into the prosecution hands or other inappropriate uses. And also we will do our quarterly data reporting through that secure website. So our managing defenders and other attorneys who do reporting have been asked to create a Utah ID account to sign into that page. And we'll monitor, of course, who has access to that, so that it remains secure and only the appropriate people are able to access that. We also have a page for research where we have posted some of the landmark studies that have been published about public defense in Utah and also throughout the country, and links to organizations like CCJJ and the Sixth Amendment Center, and other organizations that publish and do research in the area of indigent defense, so that policymakers and legislators and other people who need and want information about the state of public defense locally and nationally have easy access to those resources. We have also provided a page just for defense support, where we have outlined some of the programs and services that are available through IDC free to defense attorneys, like the language translation interpretation service that we provide, IADS, attorneys who are able to help trial preparation or issue preservation, and other services like the free case management system that we provide, so that people have easy access to those. And also our training program is available there and information about that. So we are hoping that the new website will be easy to use, that information will be easy to find and to access. And we hope that you take a look at the website when you have a moment.
I want to just recognize the hours and hours of work that Katrina put in to develop this website. She really is a multi-hyphenate for our office. It seems like she has all these skills that are too big to fit on a resume, and website development just happens to be one of them. And so she has really transformed the website, taken a ton of information and made it clearly accessible and presentable and accessible to a variety of audiences, general public, defense attorneys, managing defenders. So congratulations to you, Katrina. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you put into that.
Of course, we'll continue to maintain and develop that site. So any input and suggestions that any of you have for additional information or how information could be presented better, we're more than happy to take those and implement them in our website.
Katrina, I just took a brief glance through a few tabs, and I think it looks and works fabulously. And I'm really excited for all the information and resources that it contains. So thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, I just looked at it. It's pretty impressive. It's amazing. It's amazing how we've changed over the 9 years now, I guess.
I have to admit that the first day when I started working at the IDC, I looked at the website and I said, we have to redo this. But it's taken until now. So thank you. I appreciate that. And honestly, any feedback and suggestions for improving it would be wonderful.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Would you, any feedback, would you like that emailed, or should we bring it up at future commission meetings? What's your preference?
Yeah, emailing is great. And our staff directory is there, so my email
Yes.
is there.
I'll echo it, what everyone else has been saying. I've been on it while you've been speaking. I just going through my phone. It's so intuitive, and if I had this when I first started as a public defender years ago, I feel like there were things I wouldn't. I'm sure the information was out there somewhere, but now I would have known to come here for it. So thank you so much.
There's a law that's going into effect next spring that requires all the websites, state websites, to be ADA accessible. So we have worked with the DTS, our Department of Technology Services, to make sure that our site meets the requirements to meet that, to be compliant with that law. And we continue to monitor that, of course, as time goes on.
And the very fact that you understand all that and you've done all that, to me, that's magic. That was completely over my head. So I'm so grateful that you took that on. Wonderful. Thanks. Anything else that we should know before we move on to the next agenda item?
No, I just hope that you surf the website and take a look at it. And if you want to have access to their secure site or web page, you just have to create an Utah ID account and then send me your username and email address, and I can add you to the list of people who can access that page.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, I think we all have our assignment to get on the website and check it out. So
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Good job.
let's see, our next agenda item. Actually, we're going to go back to our approval of minutes. And we have two sets of minutes to approve. We've got our July 17th meeting minutes and then our August 21st meeting minutes. But we didn't have a meeting in September, so we just have July and August. Has anyone had an opportunity to review those? And if you have, may I ask you to motion to approve them and then get a second?
John, I reviewed them, and to my recollection, they appear accurate. So I would move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Wonderful. All right. Oh, and forgive me, when we seconded, do we have to is it all approved? Do we need to all approve it? Yes. I can't remember the wording, but I'll just say, do we all approve?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry,
Wonderful.
who seconded it? I wasn't able to get
I
that.
did.
Okay,
Michael.
thank you.
Wonderful. All right, thanks, y'all. Let us go on to our agenda item number 4, and we've got staffing update from Matt and Daniel.
Yes, we kind of revealed the surprise when we were doing introductions, but that's okay. If you recall, at our last commission meeting, we had a discussion about the aggravated murder defense fund and discussed plans to address some of the need for some additional help with mitigation and hiring a mitigation specialist using that fund to be able to provide mitigation services for the attorneys who are handling those cases. And so we went forward with that. And we're happy to announce that Dr. Daniel Lancaster is now a member of the team, and he'll be working on those capital cases as well as providing support generally to social workers, forensic social workers in defense offices throughout the state. But I will let Daniel introduce himself more fully and talk about his background.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. I, first of all, am pretty over the moon to be here. I am really looking forward to everything down the road with the IDC. To get into my background a little bit, and some of you might recognize me, I did a presentation a couple months back to the commission regarding forensic social work in general and sort of the structure and how it can really benefit counties. And I will continue beating that drum because I love it. But I got to tell you, I'm excited to be strictly working capital cases. So my background entails a lot of behavioral health and social work experience, just under 20 years in general, about 15 of which has been as a clinician. So 2011, wrapped up my Master of Social Work at the University of Utah in the forensic domain, which, just as a side note, so everybody can understand my level of nerd here, I selected the forensic domain partly out of sort of an ongoing or lifelong interest, concern about the government, any government's use of the justice system to oppress and create structural injustice, right? But mostly I heard that it was it was a more rigorous program at the U. So I did that, and then immediately went into medical social work because I had student loans to pay. So that spent about 7 years doing crisis work and hospital social work and hematology and oncology. That has been very helpful experience in the context of the here and now with defense-based social work, in terms of both how much medical social work is wildly interdisciplinary and working, on teams coordinating with nurses, physicians, medical assistants, MBAs who are trying to get authorizations for various treatments. And I've sort of dragged that along with me and have this desire to try and recreate that magic within defense-based social work. But anyway, I had a private practice for about 7 years. I closed it during COVID, not necessarily because of COVID, but that was as good of an excuse as any. Mostly I had started being a mitigation specialist at Salt Lake Legal Defender Association back in 2018, was loving it, and also had a chance to start teaching a little bit and thought, I can't do all the things. I want to focus on mitigation. So wrapped up that private practice, focusing on suicidality, chronic and complex comorbid medical and mental health conditions, working with families, family therapy, particularly with LGBTQIA youth, and helping those family systems to operate in a healthier way, wherein their kiddos were not actively suicidal or harming or, in a depressive spiral from that conflict that can come from one's religious family organization, the family dynamics themselves, and then their own identity. But yeah, in 2018, I joined LDA, never looked back, never planned to look back. I am where my soul wants to be in this work, for better or worse. I say that because I think we all know how costly defense work, indigent defense work is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to capital case work. I'm looking forward to trying everything I can to expand and support forensic social work, because I really think it is an individual county's best opportunity to reduce recidivism and costs associated with crime. But anyway, I will halt this yammering, and I'm happy to answer questions though, or yammer more if so desired.
Dr. Lancaster, thank you so much. From here on out, I knew you were Dr. Lancaster, but after hearing everything that your whole background, all the experience, all the hard work, I probably will never call you Daniel again. It's going to be Dr. Lancaster from here on out. You've earned that, of course. And any questions, any thoughts or comments? Mostly questions, I bet. Okay. We can, whenever we do have those questions, I'm sure you'll welcome those.
I guess real quick on the doctor part, I forgot about that, but so everything I do operates primarily on that master's level at the LCSW licensure through the state. But during the private practice days, I wanted to dive into existential psychotherapy, and particularly Viktor Frankl and logotherapy. And so that is what my PhD's in. And then shortly upon getting it, I closed the practice, but it has definitely, philosophy and law are best friends, right? And existential psychotherapy is delightfully, ruthlessly critical of psychiatry and the history of sort of psychiatric abuses of the mentally ill. So it still worked out, and I'm using all of that knowledge and nerdery every day. But thanks, John. I appreciate it. Daniel really does suffice, though. I only insist on being called Dr. Lancaster if you're a prosecutor, really.
Ouch. All right. Wonderful. No, thanks for explaining that. Well, we'll come to it, I'm sure, as we continue with our commission meetings, you'll share a lot of great insights that may not be on our radar. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Any additional staffing updates, Matt?
Nope, that's
okay.
That's sufficient.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so the checklist update.
Yes. So as you may recall, and for those who maybe weren't part of the commission when this project got underway, this was one of the goals for our strategic plan, was to develop and implement a defender checklist that could be used by public defenders throughout the state. We started off about a year ago on this project, and we had some help and continue to have some help in developing it through through a BJA grant that was awarded to the NLADA, National Legal Aid and Defender Association. So we had some help facilitating that. And the checklist itself, we were just as concerned with the development process as the final product. We really wanted to collaborate with defenders from around the state to create this checklist so that we could build in a sense of ownership and a sense of buy-in on the part of those defenders, so that when we roll it out, there are people who are familiar with it, who believe in its utility and its usefulness, and are willing to vouch for it. And so we've had a series of workshops. We have a working group that's been working on this. Zariah and Leslie have been instrumental in herding those cats to get this done. And we have gotten to the point where we have a master checklist, a primary checklist that starts from the initial appearance that goes all the way through to notice of appeal. And there are several sub-checklists that are either developed or being continued to work on and finalized. And so this project has finally gotten to the point where we have done some testing in 3 counties throughout the state. We have defenders who are actually using it right now, and they're going to be giving us feedback on what works, what doesn't work. But I wanted Zariah to share the checklist with everybody, kind of show how it works and how it can be used.
All right, Matt, can you see the checklist? Sorry, I was muted. Yes? Okay, great. So like Matt was saying, our goal with this checklist basically was to model the ideas after the checklist manifesto. So it would be serving as a training tool, decrease mistakes that attorneys make, and increase their efficiency, which gives them more time to focus on their clients and to focus on what's going on in hearings. And so this is a copy of the project right now that Utah County and 2 other counties are using. And tomorrow I actually have a meeting with the managing defender there to hear about how it's gone, and we'll review about 200 different versions or 200 client versions of this checklist. So I'm just going to quickly go through it, but if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Essentially, we wanted to have a primary checklist that followed the case from when it began to the end. And so I'm going to just show you a couple of the nifty features of it. We want to ensure that our practice with indigent defense is holistic. So our attorneys are getting to know their clients, know what their extra legal needs are, ensure that they're making the best arguments and not missing any potentially problematic steps. So looking at this primary checklist, we have this initial appearance appointment, and that can be one of the most important hearings for a client because they may be in custody. If they're in custody, they may lose their job, which creates a domino effect that really hurts their life and their ability to get out of the criminal system. And so, as you can see here, we want to encourage that attorneys are at the appointment stage. And so we have these drop-down menus so we can compile the data that shows whether or not attorneys are there at that stage to be able to answer questions. We have these links to other sheets or other parts of the mini checklist. So the client information sheet. And as you can see here, it's pretty in depth. These items that are covered are super important for criminal defense. So you need to make sure that you have everything in your initial file, right? Your discovery file, which would be your criminal history, the charging document, any pretrial release documentation. I don't want to get into the weeds too much. So I'm just going to briefly go over a couple of these more important aspects of this client information sheet. These checklists, and I'm specifically talking about the detention hearings. So this is usually the clients have an opportunity to argue for the release at their initial appearance, and then they're guaranteed another one with their attorneys. But the attorneys need to be prepared for that. We do want to get our clients that are eligible to be released under the least restrictive means. And so this sheet here, the attorney goes through how to advise their client, what's important to tell them. Remember that the client is in a high stressful situation. They may not know about the criminal process. So reminding clients to hit all of these different steps that are client-centered and important for defense work that are sometimes overlooked or not trained. And this checklist really emphasizes our core principles. As you can see here, we want to make sure that our clients are informed every step of the way. And let me show this other nifty feature. So the detention hearing. We have quick law references so that attorneys, when they're making arguments, if you're a newer attorney and you get nervous, you remember the buzzwords, right? The level, the burdens that you need to mention to the judge. We have case law in here and statutes so that it's a quick reference for the attorneys to go and read those. And so I hope you can all take some time to go through these, but again, every step of these important parts of a case have a checklist that correlates with it, and each jurisdiction is able to change them or modify them to fit their jurisdiction and the needs that they might specifically have. And like Matt was saying, we created these checklists with the managing defenders. And so we had input from each of those individuals about what's important, what they see lacking from their attorneys, what they're seeing that could use improvement, things like that. So we're really excited about this checklist. We've created, I'm just going to go over just a couple more. So detention hearing is an extremely important concept that the attorneys need to be on point with. The preliminary hearing checklist is another really important hearing. This is where the state is able to bind over a case that continues the criminal process. And it's important that attorneys make every argument so that certain charges are not bound over, or even charges can be lessened. And so as you can see here in our preliminary hearing checklist, we have rules about the date, like the timeframes that attorneys need to be aware of. And let me show you this feature that I think is just so stellar. It actually crosses off when you use it. So it's almost like this behavioral analysis that shows that if you're doing something and you get that gratification, then you're more likely to use it. And so we're excited to see what our attorneys have gleaned from using this. But again, we wanted these to be short enough that they're useful. We also have a sentencing one. There's different ways that sentencing happens. Anyway, don't need to go through the confidentiality agreement here, but essentially we have presented this now to our pilot group. We have about 25 attorneys that are doing this in 3 different counties, and their goal is to use this checklist on 10 different clients. And depending on the procedural posture of each client, they may only do like the preliminary hearing or a sentencing, and we're going to get their feedback. So that should be a little over 200 different versions or edits. And we'll find out what's been helpful, what these attorneys would find better, or what kind of shorter checklist that they would want. We're already looking at creating a competency checklist, how to defend against child sex crimes in general, a motion checklist, things like that. So I find that this is going to be extremely helpful for both the training stages, but also to remind even more senior attorneys to not skip certain steps that actually can really impact a client's case and their outcomes. So does anyone have any questions or want me to go into more detail of any of these?
Uriah, this is Wally.
Soraya, this is Lorene.
Yes.
Go ahead, Wally.
I just was going to say, I think it's terrific, not just for new lawyers, but also for experienced lawyers to not forget certain things. I think it's super, super helpful. It's great.
Zoraya, I was wondering, is this going to be made available generally, or is it only to our clients, or?
Right now, it is just made available to our indigent defense contracted attorneys and public defenders, but that is a conversation we definitely can have. I do think that we'll do more trainings in our CLE program that will utilize some of these checklists, especially as we expand them. But that's a good question that we'll think about, Justice Zimmerman.
And I have, this is Lorene. I too was thinking, this seems amazing. And some of you know a lot more than I do, so it's really fun to hear your feedback. So will all of the managing defenders then, I don't know if you're testing with any from Davis County through Todd. That's one question. Are you doing, having this pilot kind of all over the place to try it out? And then the other is, what does it mean to be bound over? That's something I haven't heard before.
Let me go to that and explain it. It's your first question, yes, Todd has assisted in creating these checklists. It's been very helpful. And we decided to focus on Utah County because they have a larger number of younger attorneys. And then we picked a couple attorneys from other public defense offices. Davis County has not started to use this pilot project checklist, but they will get the outcome, or I guess the final product. But Davis County child welfare attorneys are starting to use our child welfare checklist. So they've been assigned that task that we've been working on. And then your second question, so when an individual is charged with a crime, they might be incarcerated, right? They might, so they might get it through like an information that's mailed to them, or they might be incarcerated. But their actual case does not start technically until they have a hearing where the state argues and meets probable cause for the charges to be what we call bound over, or basically legitimized by the judge saying, yes, there's enough evidence for probable cause, we can go forward to trial on this case. And our problem in the judicial system is you can wait several weeks to have that hearing. So you could be languishing in jail just for the charges to be dismissed because there's not enough evidence. And that can have devastating effects on people's lives. And so that's what this preliminary hearing checklist is. It's reminding people, if you're in custody of 14 days, you need to have that prelim. If you're out of custody, 21 days. And then the different burdens, just to make sure that our attorneys are staying on top of this extremely important hearing.
Thank you.
Lorene, the preliminary hearing is Utah's substitution essentially for a grand jury indictment. So instead of having a grand jury in Utah, we have preliminary hearings. My only concern is that there are some cases, and I guess this checklist is not cast in stone, but there are some cases where a preliminary hearing is a very important tool for the defense for potentially discovery or other considerations that don't necessarily have to do with getting a defendant out of custody, but have to do with the final trial and the defense. And sometimes it takes more than a couple of weeks to get ready for a serious preliminary hearing on first-degree felony cases, for example, or capital cases. So I assume this is advisory and not something that's going to morph into a criticism of counsel who make a strategic decision that they need more time to prepare for a preliminary hearing.
Mary, all your points are extremely valid. And our goal is that these checklists are a guide. And like you said, they're not set in stone, and that attorneys are trained before they actually use this, so that they are warned, like, as an attorney, you're making strategic decisions for the entire case. And if you need to set it out right, then you do. We try to address some of the preparation issues in the checklist to remind attorneys, right, if they're trying to lock in testimony. I don't know if I can use a pointer, but here we are, identifying investigative goals of the preliminary hearing, right? Like reminding attorneys that you're not just having a preliminary hearing waiver. And if you do, to make sure that you put it on the record, but that preliminary hearings, when they're done correctly, they are an investigative tool. You're locking in testimony, you're vetting the strength of evidence and credibility of witnesses, you're locating possible witnesses, uncovering suppression issues. So everything that you said, Mary, is exactly what we want to make sure that attorneys are aware of, that there is much more to preliminary hearing than getting people out of custody. Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I just am curious. So immediately prior to the IDC, right, I was at the Weber Public Defender Group. You know this already. Something that we kept running into that I thought was interesting, and this is before the policy shift, that at initial appearance, if you ask for release, that no longer gets to count as the detention hearing. But at the time when I first started there, we were lining up people for treatment to be released to residential, and then attorneys were saying like, well, we can't get them released anyway. And there was a whole discussion about trying to help attorneys to argue for a material change in circumstance leading to a new detention hearing. So all of this backstory to say, I am a big fan of the like direct links to code. And I'm just wondering if the detention hearing one has any mention of trying for that second bite of the apple based off of material change in circumstance. Hey,
Yes.
Look at that.
Right there, but that's what kind of feedback we want, right? I actually had like the wrong dates for sanctions when there's an order to show cause. Like I was using like an old statute, so it was really helpful to have someone remind us. So anyway, yeah, great point. And if you see that there's anything missing, then let us know. But yeah, it's in there.
Sweet. And I love this a lot because my social workers and I would be like, I don't know, argue for a substantial change in material circumstance. And the attorney's like, well, how do I do that? And we'd be like, we're social workers. That's not our part. So I think this is really, it's going to be a bit of a game changer, I believe.
I guess my last point, unless there's any other questions, there is a section for treatment. And how to gather that. So, well, that's in the client information sheet. I'm lost, but yes.
If I could just highlight a couple things too, Zaraya. You know, these checklists are going to be multi-purpose. They're going to be super helpful for, especially for attorneys, maybe in areas of the state where there's not an office, they haven't had a formal trial, college, or training, and so this is a way for us to communicate to that individual or those attorneys in those situations what best practices are, what the expectations are with handling a case. And one important thing that we've woven through the entire checklist is emphasizing client communication. You know, that's probably one of the biggest complaints that we hear when we receive complaints from clients is that they feel like they have been left in the dark. And so you'll see with the checklist just a repeated reminder at every phase of the case. You know, did you meet with the client before this hearing? Did you explain to them what to expect? Then afterwards, did you talk to the client afterwards and explain what just happened? Because a lot of times it's, you know, full of legalese and might not be clear to them how the hearing went. And so I think that's a really important part of this. And it also gives the managers a tool, an additional tool to be able to see what additional training is needed, to see if there's any issues, outside of maybe one case that might be strategic, but if an individual attorney is, waiving preliminary hearings every single time, then that's an indicator to the supervisor to sit down with that attorney and say, okay, what's going on here? Why, is this all strategic, or are you getting great offers on all of these cases, or is there some course corrections that need to be made?
Are there any other questions or comments? Or suggestions?
Great job.
I'll make one comment. A while back, I was at the Utah County Public Defender's Office, and I think the biggest I went to a different firm. I went to a firm, and I felt completely guilty because I was leaving a whole caseload with another, and I think I tried to create something like that from scratch. It probably didn't work very well, but I could also imagine that when there's transitions in whole caseloads, even from one attorney moving to another day on the calendar, that's going to be immensely helpful. I think that's amazing. So Soraya, and I think if I gathered correctly, Leslie had a big role in this too, right? Thanks, y'all. Anything else? All right, let's move on to our next item. And this is grant modification proposal. And Adam.
Thanks, John. The grants we're going to be talking about modifying are covering or funding for a part-time social worker position in 3 counties, shared by 3 counties, Millard, Wasatch, and Juab counties. There has been a lot of discussion internally. We've worked on sort of improvements and ways to improve it. And at this point, we are recommending that the IDC rescind those grants to the 3 counties and then pull the money back for those. There is a long history of these and a lot of effort that's gone into making it work. And it just hasn't been able to catch on in those 3 counties. These go back to 2018. And in fact, at that point, the funding was for a full-time social worker. That social worker, which is focused on interdisciplinary representation for parents in child welfare cases, was working between those 3 counties and was supervised by the Utah County Public Defenders. That has been an effort going on for quite a while, for all those years. They have made efforts to move this forward and get it implemented well in those 3 counties, but it really just never caught on. And Margaret can speak to that later if she wants to. One of the big problems is the attorneys in those counties have not really wanted to join in. They've been hesitant to partner with the social worker. And some of them believe they've got all the resources they need for the relatively small number of cases. But another problem has been that with the low number of cases, it's hard to really build connections in the community or to build trust with the attorneys. And so it doesn't build on itself the way it has been in other counties. And that's what we've seen for quite a few years. The caseloads have remained low. We did raise this issue last year with Utah County, and as a result, they came forward with their grant application last year, and they requested that funding be cut back so that there would only be one-third time social worker in those counties. And they wanted to see if they could make that work, whether they could get enough caseload built up, enough interest built up that they could keep it going. What we found even in the last few months has been that caseloads aren't going up. There's not any greater interest from the attorneys. And at this point, we have data and information on only 6 active cases across those 3 counties. That's not really even enough time to keep one third-time worker on these cases and keep the worker employed at it. I've talked to Utah County Public Defenders for a couple of years about how to make increases, what their plan might be. Margaret and I have talked quite a bit. I know they've tried to make some differences, and really nothing has helped the program catch on in those counties. And as a result, we are really recommending that this be rescinded, that we pull the money back and recognize this is a program that hasn't worked effectively enough to give the benefit to the counties or to the IDC. I'll say I hate to recommend cutting off any social worker positions or funding, especially in child welfare cases. Around the state, we're getting great results from the interdisciplinary representation. We've got about a 61% return rate in cases where the children have been removed from the house. It's pretty good level, really good level compared to state averages, regular cases. And in cases where we don't have removal of kids, we've got a 90% chance of 90% record of getting kids home or keeping kids in the home and having cases closed positively. So this works, but it also indicates that we ought to make our efforts somewhere else and take back this funding so we can focus on putting it somewhere else. I'll also say in Margaret's county, in her cases in Utah County, we don't have problems getting data. We don't have problems getting caseloads. The attorneys are very invested, and I think she'd tell you that it's working really well for what they now have, which is 1 2/3 time social workers on these cases. So that's the summary. I can answer any questions if you want to, but it's pretty straightforward to us after a good deal of time trying to see how we can make this better and see if we can get caseloads and interest up and make it work well.
Adam, thanks. What is the amount of the grant?
The total grant for those three is $35,124. So it's really not very big, obviously. But the fundamental base problem, right, is that the county's not getting the benefit of the grants we're providing, and IDC is not getting a benefit from providing even that small amount of money.
Right. Yeah. And it just ties it up where it can't go elsewhere. Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Do you need a motion, Adam?
Well, if I may, I would like to chime in a little bit. Not as a member of the IDC, but solely as my job as basically the juvenile director and now back appeals in the Utah County Public Defenders Association, as well as the managing juvenile defender in what now is Wasatch, Juab, and Millard counties. Now, I will say that the position that Adam's talking about, which has had kind of various forms with grants, was the first parental representation social worker in the state. And that was a position that was created as part of a collaboration with the IDC, with JoJo, with myself. You know, it was placed under the JUAB grant with really the understanding that we were trying to use it everywhere in what then was really just Utah County and JUAB County, but knowing that a lot of the work would have to be in Utah County simply because of the structure and the caseloads. You know, since that time, Millard been added, San Pete County was added for a bit, and then San Pete went to 6-district system a few years ago, and Wasatch came into the system, about 15 months ago. And I do not contest what Adam is saying about the challenges, and I obviously have seen and know how well the program is working in other places. I know how well it works in our Utah County. And the reality is of the 4th district is that in the last 3 years or so, we've added 2 new juvenile courts, but that the time that is spent by our 4th district juvenile court judges in those 3 counties has not increased. So the caseload for those increase is been within Utah County. So there absolutely is, a need for however much social work positions that we can get are used very well, but we've struggled. My question really for the commission right now is not necessarily ending this grant as it relates to the other 3 counties. It's really a question of timing, kind of at the same time, Adam and the IDC staff, rightfully so. I totally understand where their position is. We've had as Adam indicated, we've had numerous conversations. We did, somewhat make a breakthrough in Juab County. So I do have, 6 new cases where there has been social work contact in Juab. We've got 4 in Wasatch. So it's not really a question of ending it. It's really a question of when. And I won't vote on that decision, but I will tell you what my intent would be and what my workers' intent would be. And that is that whatever cases we have open, regardless of when the grant, that part of the grant would end, we intend to finish. We will not leave those parents or those cases now that the work has been started without assistance. We feel like it's too important, and so that's somewhat of our bottom line. Obviously, there's a lot of concern, not only as it relates to those counties and us wanting it to succeed everywhere we are, but also what it means to drop basically the second social worker from a full-time position down to a 2/3 time position. But we'll have to figure that out, depending on, and when we do it, will depend on what the commission decides today. I certainly believe there's plenty of work in the Utah County. That's never been a question. But I don't disagree with Adam's portrayal of the challenges there. Both the courts in Vernal or in Juab and Miller have, since COVID, been virtual. That, I think, certainly adds to the challenge there, as well as there's the 4th district is like many judicial districts in the state, covers a lot of ground, and especially when you don't have court, I think that absolutely has added to the challenge. But I don't disagree that there have been challenges. I wish that things were different, but we've also been facing as well still some really steady growth in Utah County. So that's the lay of the land.
Can I just add a little bit more detail to the motion or to the request? Because, so Adam mentioned that the grants in question is just over $33,000 for the year, for the fiscal year. Because of where we are in the calendar, what we would be proposing, or what we are proposing, is that the grant be modified to expire on January 1st, since we're already into Q2. So basically it would be continuing through, the work would continue to be grant funded through the end of this calendar year, and then would be discontinued after that. What we've done in the past, because similar situations have come up where we've recommended that grants be modified. I believe that happened in Utah County when a grant wasn't being utilized as fully as we had as anybody had intended. And what the process was on that was that there was the request from Davis County, sorry, Commissioner Kamala, I was going to use you as an example, that grant funding remain within the county. But after a discussion with the full commission, it was agreed that those funds should go back into the grant fund, the general fund, and then come application time for new applications, any requests would be considered at that time. And so, if Utah County desires to maybe request that funding be reapportioned or contained within Utah County and to be used, 100% within Utah County, I think that would be something we would certainly consider when grant applications are being looked at early next year.
Can I make one more comment also, John, if that's all right? I'm just following up on what Margaret said about caseloads now. I know they've made a real strong push in the last few weeks or month to get more cases underway. I made the comment about 6, and that's what Leslie and I talked about. I believe that's the correct number from after our discussion. And what we mean by that is those are the cases we have some data on that have come in and appear to be active in those counties. There is definitely plenty of opportunity or plenty of need in those counties. It's just been quite a while that it's been a really low level of uptake on it. So I'm sure if attorneys would jump on board or would have, we could have had a lot more cases there, but it's just been such a slow process to get them moving on it that it has been hard to get caseloads up. And I just, so you know, our regular standard for the rest of the cases, social workers that are in the state is caseload of 25. And in every one of the other counties, they're able to do that and keep either right there or above that all the time. And so that's the aim. That's what we want to aim for. Certainly not with a 1/3 time position, but that's the kind of level we want to aim for. So they're fully occupied.
Yes, Pam.
So some of your social worker is funded through one grant, part through Utah. So this one social worker is does splits. That I'm just trying to make sure I understand it all. So like part is in Juab, Millard, and Wasatch, and then part is funded through other Utah County or through IDC specifically for Utah County.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of, in my opinion, and that's sort of how it's emerged. I think if I look back in hindsight, we should have just put that position under Utah County from the beginning. I think we had all hoped that regionalization would be at a different level than what it is now. I think also back then we just wanted to see how it would work. And I think it's evolved and we can show that it very much can work. But the position that comes from 2 grants provides the salary for a full-time employee social worker of the Utah County Public Defender Association. And so that's what we're talking about. And you know, I completely understand you know, Adams and the IDC staff's position. In most ways, I agree with them. You know, I also know that, you know, maybe too, you know, but it affects that position in more than simply a cut and dried way. You know, at the same time, I like I said, I understand we're not where we wanted to be, although in the last month, I don't know, when I pulled up I do know we've since about, I think the 18th of September, we have added 6 cases, I think, from Juab. I think there's 1 from Millard. I know the social workers started on those. I'm, you know, we will do the work on those, you know, and if we have to try and make adjustments to see where, if it's possible to pull, you know, some funds or find budget for to make up some of the difference in that loss, then that's what we'll do. I mean, I can't, you know, argue the fact that it's not where I want it to be if you look at it as in 2 regions. So
My other question is, so is this like the Davis thing we talked about? Like if the money pulls back, it goes back into the grant fund and then gets reallocated. I mean, I guess you explained that earlier, Matt, but that's what I was making sure is when you say general fund, it's like the grant fund or whatever.
Right. Not back to the legislative fund, but it would remain within the IDC grant program. And it would be, as I said, it would be half of the grant amount would be dispersed for this fiscal year. So it wouldn't be the full, you know, for this fiscal year, it wouldn't be the full 33,000. It would be half of that.
Any other thoughts or questions?
My thought is I hate these kind of votes. There's no part of this vote I like. I'm gonna have to run to the restroom while you guys handle this. Just kidding.
Yeah, especially social work and child, you know, the need there. I understand that. I guess we're striving though for consistency, to treat all the counties similarly, right?
Well, and I mean, these are taxpayer funded.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we
have
can
to-
move the money
taxpayer-
into, can we move the money then into more successful forums?
Mhm. Well, and you know, with it being in the general fund, that's something we could look at as far as, you know, innovation grants, pilot projects,
Yeah.
things of that nature too.
Do we have any discretion regarding timing? Oh, Margaret brought that up. Is that something, and Matt, I know you're saying that this wouldn't happen until January.
Mhm.
Do we have any additional discretion on timing?
Well, I mean, you have a lot of
All the discretion you want.
You know, you can, you know, this is our recommendation, but ultimately it's up to the commission to make a motion and a vote.
There's nothing that like because Margaret, this impacts like your full-time social worker in your office then, right? Like, cause you guys then, like, you don't want to lose what she's doing for you, but then you've got to deal with like the decrease in pay for a full-time position, even though, but I mean, nothing prevents Utah County from applying for the money and saying, instead of applying it to Juab, Millard, or whatever, apply it for future months to our full-time position. And I don't know, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be graded as a existing resource. It would be graded as a new one, but, and then it wouldn't be available till July either, even if it got awarded.
Right, we would need to follow the regular grant application process, unless we were opening up, you know, mid-year grant applications for everybody. I mean, we would need to be fair and consistent that way.
Yeah, I was also thinking similarly, Pam, that Margaret even said it'd be, you know, hindsight, since this goes all the way back to 2018 and we've done and learned so much since that time. It seems very reasonable to reapply and then have it be in the Utah County application, right? Anyway.
we've certainly gone from four juvenile judges, I think, to or 4, barely 5 to 7. So we've definitely, the workload has definitely increased.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the majority of that's in child welfare caseload too, Margaret. It's your child welfare caseload that's largely up, yes?
Well, I think we've had both. I mean, I'm sure it's more heavily weighted on child welfare. Our delinquency caseload seems to be kind of area more specific. We've got a few areas that have a significantly higher delinquency numbers that seems than others, but I would say that's true. On our caseloads, you know, initially when you get a new judge, you might have some lower caseloads as cases are getting transferred, and then as that court comes up to speed, it seems like the numbers all the way and the zip codes get redirected to to different areas for the different judges. It seems like very quickly those case loads, climb back. So I think that's where we're at. But look, I'm clearly abstaining on this vote. I could see the complexities. I understand the basis for staff's, motion. I understand, where that things stand, but I also understand the practical question of the timing and where things are at, today, both as it relates to what it means for, salary, but also what it means for the open cases that we do have. So, and regardless of what, like I indicated, regardless of how the commission votes on this, that work on those cases will continue. So.
And we do need a motion, correct, Matt, if we want to move forward with this?
Yeah.
Here's my my problem, and I think I'm maybe the only one feeling this way. I don't know if I am picking up on all of the nuances to be able to feel like I can vote responsibly. I think I understood everything that Adam was explaining to us. And Margaret, you shared a lot of new details that I guess I thought in my mind
John,
it was more.
Let me say this, John. I agree that the grant as it exists, the position as it exists for those three counties, that the work that we've been able to generate, that through whatever reason, and it's complex, is really not sufficient to warrant
the
continuation of that grant as it stands.
Okay.
I think my only question is there, since we are, we're talking about, half the year, is there space in the question of timing? That's my, biggest question. If there's not, then that's what the commission sees and follows the recommendations, and we'll figure it out. So.
All right.
But,
was the Davis one also a mid-year removal?
That's a good question. I don't know that it is, now that I think about it. It might have just been when we were talking about renewals during the regular grant cycle, that it came to our attention that grant wasn't being fully utilized.
Because of course we all want fairness.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't in the middle of the year, when, I mean, here's the thing, counties' fiscal years are actually the calendar year, but counties are in the middle of all of that budget work right now. So I don't know, Margaret, whether your work, is that a calendar year as well, or?
Our budget is, I don't know where that stands. I know that our initial contract was for 18 months, which I think would be next June. yeah, I don't have those answers other than I know they're in the middle of it. I know with the new capital case and everything that's transpired, I don't know what chances there are much for, you know, budget increase, but, you know, if the vote is that this ends in January, then, you know, we'll have to scramble to try and figure some of that stuff out and do the best that we can, and then make sure that we, you know, the new grant cycle, you know, apply to see if we can get some, you know, additional help on that position.
John, sorry, Margaret. John, can I make a comment?
Yes.
With what you said. I appreciate the point about not necessarily having the nuance, and I'm glad to provide more if I can. But what I want to say about this too is that this is not a recent issue. This is something that we've been talking about internally for 2 years, really. And in 2024, relatively early, we talked with Margaret and county public defenders about the fact that this just wasn't giving benefit to the counties. And that's what our grants are supposed to do, right? Provide some funding that allows the county to take advantage of a resource and then to provide something productive in response. And so in 2024, this wasn't working. In 2025, we knew it wasn't. There was really low caseloads. And so the request could have been for 2 social workers in Utah County. I think the request came from Margaret's office in hope that something would work. But this is not a new problem. And really that was, I think the grant was applied for at that 2/3, 1/3 structure, in recognition that it might not really get better. And there are a lot of reasons it hasn't built up in those counties, but it's just not a new problem. And our concern for a couple of years has been, we're giving money to a county through our grant funding. There doesn't appear to be really good returns or anything really noticeable, despite effort. And so we should stop doing that. And we should stop spending the money in that way. Even if it does cause some problem, we come back next year with other applications.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Oh, who was that? Sorry.
This is Wally Bugden. I would make a motion that we follow the recommendation and that we terminate the grant in January, claw back the money.
Yeah, this is Michael Zimmerman, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 You need a roll call vote.
Maybe you need to do any opposed.
Oh, yes.
Not a-
Yeah, any
Any
opposed?
opposed?
I'm
Yeah,
going to oppose just because I feel supportive.
I will also oppose. I think I'm really, I think I understand, but I also, it's a timing, for me, and especially noting that there are some new cases, I would have to oppose right now.
And I, of course, will abstain.
Maybe we should ask if,
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say we should ask if there are any other abstentions.
Yes, any other abstentions? Doesn't seem like any.
Only 2
And I just-
opposed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really glad that we could hear all sides. So thank you so much, Margaret, for giving even more explanation. And hopefully we'll see that application.
Yeah. So just by my count, I have 2 votes in opposition, 1 abstain, and 7 in support.
2 abstentions.
The motion carries, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for everyone's participation on that. Thank you, Adam, for explaining all that. Margaret, thank you for the additional insight on that and everyone's serious consideration. If there are no other comments, we can move on to our, I think, Well, we have grant monitoring site visits. That's Matt.
And actually, that was something. If we could continue that to next week or next month's meeting, we did just a preview. We did go on some site visits earlier this month. We went to Grand County and Carbon County and San Juan County, but I'll need to give a more wholesome report at a later date on how those went. Positive. That's spoiler alert. They were good. They were good meetings, but I need some more time to work on the report.
Thank you. I think we've gone through all of our agenda items except for public comment. So do we have any public here? And it does not look like it, does it? All right, so no public to make any public comments. Let's see, if there isn't anything else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right, anyone?
Second motion.
All right, and all what's the phrasing for that? All approve, all
All in
agree?
favor.
All in favor.
Or is there anyone opposed?
Any?
That's
All in
easier.
favor? Anyone approve?
And guess what? You don't even really need it as chair to have a motion. I guess if there's some controversy going on and the chair is trying to shut the meeting down prematurely, maybe that would be a thing, but
okay.
I'll just say.
I do have one final thing to say, and that's go Cougs.
Okay.
Ah, yes. Boom. And youths. I'm conflicted. I have degrees from both.
There are some
Anyway.
faces that do look disgusted. So
Well, you see from my wall backing how I feel about
oh
that.
my.
Hey, you know what? I was born there. My parents went to law school and medical school there. I was born at University Hospital, but they raised me to be a Cougar. And so that's what I am.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be back together next month. We'll adjourn for now, and everyone, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.